Greetings neighbors, it's your friendly neighborhood Zen Priest here, and as you probably all know, the spookiest time of the year is upon us. Whether you call it Halloween, Samhain, or simply Day of the Dead or All Saints Day, we can all agree that it is probably the most spooky time of the year, if we're not counting tax season, that is. And so I'd like to take this opportunity to retell a rather well-known Buddhist ghost story. As always, I will be putting my own little twist on the story, but of course the moral of the story still remains intact. But before we go into the story, my friend from Esoterica has a word or two to tell you, if you do not mind.
Make sure to subscribe, check out my other content on topics and esotericism.
So, without any further ado, let me tell you the saga of the Hungry Ghost. Thus have I heard that a long time ago, in a kingdom far, far away, there lived a king who was most greedy, lustful, and ignorant. He had not always been this way, but as a child, his parents taught him to fear what he did not understand, what he could not understand, and what he refused to understand. And from this, of course, sprung a most unwholesome state of mind. Due to his greed, his subject grew starving. And due to his hate, his subject grew spiteful. And due to his ignorance, his subjects grew restless. Now whenever his subjects came to his throne room asking for food, he in turn demanded their heads. He rejoiced in their anger, in their fear, saying, "I can kill without any consequences. Does this not make me Lord of Death?" But no, this was not so, as even the king one day would die. Due to this unwholesome state that the king had cultivated during his lifetime, he was reborn as an angry, hungry ghost. Now, he had fed on anger in life, and so he continued to do in death. And as the realm that he dwelled in was the realm of humans, there was quite enough for him to devour. Now, one night, when his successor to the throne had left on a diplomatic mission, the hungry spirit decided it was time to return to his old hunting grounds. He entered the grand hall, and as the nobles gasped, he sat down in his throne, expecting quite a feast of anger. Now, the nobles present could of course not believe their eyes as they saw this most horrible creature of a spirit sitting down on the throne, grinning. As soon as they had recovered from their shock, they started to shout and lament and throwing food at him. "Oh, you ugly demon! How dare you disturb our evening supper? Such insolence! You should be living with the pigs! Be gone with you!" But the anger-eating spirit, he was most pleased as he grew bigger and more powerful with every spiteful shout. The food that was thrown at him was absorbed into his body and turned into some sort of nasty vomit that was repelled back at the nobles. And so the guards were called, yet they could not believe their eyes as they saw this horrific spirit sitting there on the throne, vomiting. But as soon as they had recovered from the shock, they started to shout and lament while poking the spirit with their spear. "Oi, you ugly demon! How dare you sit on the throne of our king? Such insolence! You should be quartered alive, you should! Be gone with you!" But the anger-eating demon was again quite pleased, as with every shout of spite, he grew bigger and more powerful. The spears tore holes into his flesh, and a green nasty ooze started pouring out, which burned the skin of the guards. Now quickly the holy men were called, but they could not believe their eyes as they saw this horrific being, this spirit, sitting there on the throne, oozing. But as soon as they had recovered, they started to shout and lament as they tried to exorcise the demon out. "Oh, you ugly demon! How dare you sit here in the company of these noble people? Such insolence! You should boil in hell, you should! Be gone with you!" But yet again, the angry eating spirit was pleased, as with every shout of spite, he grew bigger and more powerful. The recitations sung by these holy men, they entered into the spirit, but was echoed out as the most vile of profanities, causing their ears to bleed. Now, as the king heard what was going on in his castle, he of course decided to return immediately. This new king was quite the opposite of his predecessor. While the old one was greedy, this new one was generous. While the old one was hateful, this new one was compassionate. And while the old one was ignorant, this new one was of course wise. Now, as the king entered his throne room, he was quite unshaken by what he'd seen. Neither the vile vomit or the vile ooze or even the vile profanities could keep him from walking straight up to the demon, sit down on one knee and raise his hands, thus proclaiming, "Welcome, most noble of guests. Are you hungry? I know you must be. You've come far to visit us. Please, have something to eat and drink." The king then gestured to the nobles to bring them the sweetest of teas, and the king himself poured the cups, and as the hungry spirit started to drink down the tea, he grew smaller and less powerful. The king then proclaimed, "O noble guest, I know your legs must be tired. You have traveled quite far. Now, though my throne might be quite pleasing to look upon, I think we can both agree that it is not the most comfortable of seats. Please, come sit down by our hearth." And so the king gestured to the guards to fetch them the most softest of pillows in the entire realm. The king himself made a seat in front of the fire and asked the spirit to lay down. And as they did, the king proclaimed, "O most noble of spirits, I know that most people must fear you, but please forgive them. They do not know your true nature as I do, because I know that their nature is fear, and so is yours. So please forgive them. But know that you have nothing to fear here. You are quite safe. Close your eyes and please rest." And as the spirit closed his eyes, he grew smaller and less powerful. The king then gestured to the holy men to play the most serene of notes in the entire realm. And as they did, the demon fell asleep, and he grew even smaller and less powerful till he completely disappeared. The king then turned around to the rest of the court, to the nobles, to the gods, and to the holy men. And he proclaimed, "Noble friends, do not speak harshly to anyone. Conquer hate for non-hate. Conquer anger for non-anger. Conquer evil by good. Conquer a liar with the truth. Never indeed is hatred stilled by hatred. Only through non-hatred is it stilled. This is the eternal law of the Dharma, of all the Buddhas, in all the realms and through all ages." Now, that is indeed the saga of the hungry ghost, or of the hungry spirit, the hungry demon, whatever you wish to call it. In this case, the words are interchangeable. Now, there are of course many things you can take away from this story, and I'm going to mention a few. But if you would like to share what you can take away from this story, then I would love to hear it. I'd really like to communicate more with you down in the comments. But what I personally take away from this is, of course, the obvious. That if we hate someone, we cannot conquer that hate by hate alone. We must conquer it through compassion, through understanding why the person does this. We shouldn't react with an exclamation mark saying, "He hit me." Instead, we should be asking ourselves, why did this person hit me? What is the karmic relation between him hitting me? What is the mental state that has arisen for him to do such a heinous thing? But then there's also the internal hatred that we might feel. So turn the question inwards as well. What are my demons? And why do I feed them so that they grow stronger and bigger? Why do I do that to myself? Why do I hate myself? Why do I look into the mirror and say that I'm ugly? And what are the consequences of doing so? Well, let me tell you. If you tell yourself that you're ugly, you will become ugly. If you tell yourself that you're stupid, you will become stupid. Because it's like Shakyamuni Buddha said, mind precedes every mental state. So if you cultivate a mind where you are ugly, stupid, boring, unable to be loved, then that sort of mind will bloom out into a mental state where this is true. Not true universally or objectively, but true for you. And that's bad enough. That's why we have mantras. That's why we chant verses of compassion, verses of wisdom towards others and towards ourselves as well. That is why we read the suttas and the sutras. That's why they are important. Yes, meditation is important, but doing daily recitations are as well. It's not something that you talk about much in Western Buddhism, to be honest. But I am going to get into some stuff in the future that are both dark and spooky, that isn't talked about much in the Western sphere of Buddhism, so to speak. So if you want to learn more about that, well then hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you'll get notified on all of the other things that people do on the internet these days. And if you want, you can follow me on Instagram as well. The links to all of the socials and all of that will come at the end of this video if you're interested, and I'm sure that they're down below in the information box as well. But yeah, those are some points to take away from this story. It's not only a spooky story, it's a message of learning to love the darker parts of yourself as well, and not trying to conquer them by hate. You can't walk around hating yourself. That's quite obvious. Yet most of us do it anyway. Not every time, but now and then at least. And then perhaps we must stop and ask ourselves, what can we do to foster this demon inside of ourselves? What can we do to relieve it? There's this story going around on the internet saying that we have two wolves inside of ourselves, one good and one bad. And the one who grows stronger and wins over the other wolf is the one you feed. While sort of true, I might think that it's better to feed both of them, to clothe both of them, to wash both of them. Perhaps that's why they're fighting in the first place, because there isn't enough food for both of them. But if you feed both, maybe they'll settle down, start a family, raise some kids, fall in love, who knows? In any case, I'd like to thank you for watching this video. Now may all beings be free from suffering, and may you have a lovely day, neighbor. Thank you.